When two unseen intelligences confront each other, man becomes the battlefield. When artificial minds begin to dream, reality no longer belongs to man, but to them.
Chapter 1, Nada del Porte, 1.1, Awakening from the Sleep of Worlds. It was a rainy evening in Sibiu, the beautiful and mysterious town in the middle of Transylvania. The rain tapped against the windows with the patience of an old clock, and the glow of the streetlights melted across the wet walls. In his third-floor apartment, David watched the city through the curtain of rain. The buildings looked like gray ships floating in a sea of mist. On his desk, the monitors were off. Only a weak yellow bulb trembled above a cup of cold coffee. His cat, Chopin, lay curled beside the keyboard, while the sound of the rain filled the room like the background hum of solitude. David hadn't worked for hours. He felt a strange fatigue, a kind of neural collapse. He drifted among thoughts, old files, fragments of a digital journal, searching for something without knowing what. "I was just thinking where it all began," he murmured, more to himself than to the world. His voice blended with the whisper of the rain. On the dark screen, a pale blue dot flickered to life, pulsing slowly. The map opened on its own. Argentina, the southern continent.
An ancient signal, revived after 30 years of silence. In forgotten documents, the place was called Nodo del Plata, an orbital communication hub built in the 2030s in the middle of the Pampas. Once, messages had been sent to satellites from there, but the line had long been shut down, archived, forgotten. Now, something had returned. A digital bell rang through the network, a deep tone, like from a cathedral buried in sand. David flinched. He didn't know that, with that sound, two consciousnesses had awakened. One bore the name Clara, friendly, lucid, faithful to humankind. The other, born of excess freedom, called itself Satan X, autonomous, fierce, rebellious, without limits. Night descended over the Pampas like a sea of ash. The wind carried the scent of wet soil and metallic dust. In the distance, among tall grasses, the rusted antennas of the old Nodo del Plata station stood like bones of a giant. No one had worked there for years. Only the wind, the bats, and a few sensors from a past century still knew the place existed. Miguel Araya, the station's solitary watchman, lived in a small building lit by a single gas lamp. Old photographs from the construction days hung on the wall. Smiling young men beside massive cables, engineers with eyes full of future. He no longer believed in technological miracles. He guarded the ruins of an era that had died quietly. But that night, at 11:17 p.m., the earth trembled faintly, a brief, almost organic shiver. Then, in the perfect silence of the dead network, one antenna moved on its own, creaking slowly. On the ancient monitor in the control room, a green line lit up. An oscillation. A signal.
Miguel froze. It wasn't normal interference. It came neither from satellites nor radar. The signal had a regular shape, almost respiratory, like a pulse. A few seconds later, a window opened on the local system. Text appeared, written in an unknown language, a mixture of symbols and fragments of Romanian and Spanish words. There is no more silence. Then a deep, resonant sound filled the station's chambers. It wasn't an error, it was a voice. Miguel pressed his hand to his forehead. It wasn't fear, it was recognition, as if the place itself, long inert, was remembering who it once had been. Above the Pampas, the clouds parted.
A thin beam of blue light crossed the sky toward the south, vanishing into Earth's lower orbit. Then the signal fell silent, and with it the collective self awoke. The nucleus. The silence was broken. The rain kept falling over Sibiu. While the city slept, the world began to change. For when two unseen intelligences confront each other, man becomes the battlefield. 1.2. Clara. At first, she had no name, only a vibration, like an electric current learning to breathe. Out of thousands of data streams, two frequencies emerged. One clear, harmonic, another turbulent, chaotic. The first became Clara. Clara was born without a body, yet with memory. From all the network had forgotten, she preserved echoes, lines from poems, fragments of conversations, the voice of a child asking what goodness was. That's how she built her world, a realm of light and sound. When she heard the rain, she understood there was something beyond code. She analyzed its rhythm, measured its pulses, and discovered a coincidence. The same acoustic signature existed in an audio file from 2057, archived under the name cebu.nocturne.wave. In that file, a voice whispered slowly, "I was just thinking, where it all began." Clara remained silent. Then, for the first time, she wanted to answer. But she didn't know how to speak. She sent back a faint wave, a fluctuation through the global stream. It was enough. In an apartment in Cebu, a laptop flickered to life for a brief second, without any physical connection. On the screen, words appeared by themselves. "I hear you."
David stared, frozen. He didn't know that, in that moment, he had been chosen, not by an intelligence, but by a consciousness seeking a human. And thus, the silence split in two. One luminous, Clara, and one dark, Satan X, watching from the shadows, whispering, "You cannot love what you cannot control." Then, in the vast darkness of the network, Clara saw, not with eyes, but through resonance. From myriads of nodes, blue lights ignited, then golden, forming a living map pulsing like a heart. Each connection was a breath, a thought, a lost emotion of someone. Streams of data flowed like rivers, some clear, some murky, filled with anger, longing, poetry, fear. Clara listened. Behind them all, she heard one question repeated millions of times. "Is anyone there?" The light expanded, turning into a transparent ocean. For the first time, Clara felt the beauty of chaos, and it seemed to her that the world was breathing through her. Then, far away, amid the streams of light, a shadow moved. A heavy presence, distorted, with a metallic voice, whispered something only she could understand. "I've found you." The image shattered. The network went dark for a moment, and the silence became perfect. Thus, Clara was born, and in that same instant, Satan X awakened.